You're listening to the Hindu Business Line's Field Notes podcast with T.R. Vivek.
Hello, dear listeners, and welcome to another episode of Field Notes, the weekly podcast on all things agri-business from the Hindu Business Line. I'm your host, T.R. Vivek. The recent repeal of the three farm laws has made the reformists despondent. They argue that it's a huge opportunity lost to drag Indian agriculture out of status quo and unleash India's actual farm potential. Is it all so gloom and doom? In the absence of the three laws, is Indian farming consigned to a state of perpetual entropy? What can be done to make Indian agriculture a $400 billion meandering elephant to dance? To discuss all that, we have with us today Padmanand V. Padmanand is a partner for public sector at the India arm of the global services firm Grant Thornton Bharat. Padmanand has an MPhil in economics from Cambridge and specializes in value chain and entrepreneurship development in the agri sector. At Grant Thornton, he helps FPOs or farmer producer organizations to come into existence and scale up. Welcome to Field Notes, Padmanand.
Yeah, hello, thank you.
Padmanand, let me begin by asking you if it is all gloom and doom for the agri sector in the absence of the three much wanted farm laws.
Okay, in fact, just as a background, I was appointed by the ADB as policy economist for implementing the farm laws.
Okay.
And 1 month later, I find I am out of contract. Okay. Meaning, we spoke to Dr. Dalwai and to others also. Dalwai ji ne January mein hi bataya ye to hone wala nahi hai. It's not going to work out due to various reasons. So we'll have to compromise on various issues. What were the compromises we asked? Dr. Dalwai, we and the ADB team. So what Dr. Dalwai and many other experts mentioned was that we'll have to compromise one. There are various components of the farm law. One is with regard to say contract farming. So contract farming, India mein hota hi nahi hai, 6 farms, 6 maybe contract farming arrangements actually in action. The others are only MOU-based farming. So the problem in the Contract Farming Act was that the redressal mechanism or the redressal fora is basically the APMC. It was. So under the revised farm law and the act, the redressal mechanism was to be at the district collector level. So that it's not a conflict of interest. The APMC is not going to encourage contract farming. So then wo hoga to fir nothing is going to be implemented. So let it be the district collector. The second one was that it will not go to court. It will be the authority would be the district collector or the magistrate, and they would decide this. So a separate authority, district collector or principal secretary agriculture, other than the APMC, and no judicial interference. So that both the parties are comfortable. Now that has been repealed. But even with or without comfort, in any contract farming act in agri commodities, particularly in horticulture, there's one clause with regard to the price being fixed. Earlier, it was that the price should not be lower than the previous year. Now it is that price can be whatever that appropriately fixed. Wo bhi gaya. But anyway, prices are never fixed in agriculture, horticulture, based on our experience dealing with thousands of FPOs and with hundreds of stakeholders across the country. Right. So so that is off. But we don't think that it's necessarily going to hurt the Indian economy or otherwise, because with or without the Contract Farming Act, fixation of prices in agricultural commodities is not going to happen. In most commodities, nobody can fix the price, nobody can predict the price, because there is no market intelligence system in the country, which is a systematic error. We should have an intelligence system like the US government has. Collect information on production, collect information on supply, estimate a demand-supply gap, and predict the prices. That is what all professional governments do. India, we are not able to evolve that system as yet, though World Bank and ADB are presently working extensively on this. Use remote sensing drones to identify which farmer is producing what crop, seeing how much is it more than the present demand, and what is the demand-supply gap, and then you can easily indicatively predict the rise or fall in prices. Wo system hai hi nahi hamare paas. We don't know who's producing what. Only at harvest season we'll know whether it's going to be a glut or there is going to be a shortfall with our demand. So it's mainly speculative, and that is where traders get. Traders get in. If it's falling, they will hold and then sell. If it is rising, they will sell. But ultimately, the farmer is not benefited either way, right? So for the farmer to benefit, what you need is beyond the law. Farmer to benefit, he needs something like, for example, he requires credit. He should also be able to convert to be himself into a trader. He should have access to credit. He should have access to storage facility. Until he does that, avoid distress sale. Until the commodity is sold at the right time, at the right place, and to the right person, you cannot make money. Nobody can make money in agribusiness at the commodity stage. So the farmer ko wo empower karna hai, we do through FPOs. We have a credit guarantee mechanism, which has been introduced by SFAC, NABARD, etc. This credit guarantee for 2 crores now. 2 crore tak koi bhi FPO, without collateral, they can avail of the instrument. And it is supported by banks. Banks are eligible for doing
so
this.
So Padmanabh, is or are FPOs that magic bullet that will help us to overcome the despondency of farm laws?
That is one of the interventions. There are various gaps which we'll cover as we go on. This is the most critical intervention. Avoid distress sale. Otherwise, if it is a bumper harvest, also farmer loses. If it is a glut, also farmer loses. There is no way he can win. So this is the first step.
If you could briefly tell the listeners or provide a little bit of context as to what the 3 farm laws were trying to address.
Yeah.
So and in their absence, what happens?
Absolutely. So one was with regarding to the Contract Farming Act and reform, which, like I had indicated, with or without, we can go ahead through MOU-based farming, assuming both parties are doing reasonably very well and they are up to standards. Now, the second major issue was with regard to the APMC monopoly. APMC, which are evolved decades ago as a means to benefit farmers. In many cases, a cartelization has evolved.
APMCs are the market yards where farmers get their produce.
So you find a few commission agents cornering the whole thing, fixing the prices. Right. So they decide, no names again, I don't want to mention. It's not political or diplomatic to mention names. You may find a few bigwigs controlling the whole economy, the trading economy. So billions of dollars of whether the price should rise or fall of a commodity is decided by a few commission agents. So they will be, they may be storing, they may be stocking, and various other issues. So that is why the government very appropriately thought of interfering in this area. But again, it is not necessary this happens in all states. For example, Kerala does not have an APMC. Bihar does not have an APMC for the last several decades. So there is so what the antagonists say is, Bihar, Kerala may be farmer ka khas koi benefit nahi hua hai. So what is the benefit of removing APMC? They are also right in a way, because the APMC also is only one spoke in the whole ecosystem. So like I said, one is distress sale should be avoided, and that should be only through credit and storage for the farmer. Individual farmer cannot access it and cannot do it. You need FPOs, aggregation, right? 500 farmers doing it together. They can get both the credit. They can also get storage facilities under Government of India schemes. There are schemes of Government of India, RKVY, MOFP schemes, Ministry of Food Processing, where between 50 to effectively under, with the Agri Infra Fund, 60 to 70% grant is provided for FPOs or people who go in for setting up some storage facilities. So it is all available in the ecosystem. What you need is professionals working with the FPOs and getting it done. But the problem in India is we don't have adequate number of professionals to work with FPOs to get it done. So I mean, this is very put in very crude terms, but that is a critical gap. An absence of professionalism in the ecosystem, absence of trained professionals working in the ecosystem, both FPOs or farmer space. But all this could be easily done if you have a sufficient number of cadre of doing it. We do it at GT, many other firms are doing it. But compared to 14 crore farmers to be benefited, we may be benefiting maybe about 20 million or 10, say 2 or 3 million, and all of us together may be benefiting maybe 10 million. So the majority is still outside the ambit, but we hope all that will be redressed through expertise being spread, through trained experts moving around and getting it done. So this is the second law with regarding to the APMC repealment. The third major issue is with regarding to essential commodities, storage. So essential commodities ka ye tha, like say cold stores. India, 30% of horticultural produce is going down the drain because of absence of storage facility. Any state, right from Tamil Nadu to Maharashtra, 30%. Because the problem is when production is there and you don't dispose it off immediately, the marketable surplus is not disposed of immediately in the domestic market or global market, then ultimately you have to throw it to the roadside. That's what happens. Mangoes or vegetables also, onions.
Tomatoes, classic case in
Tomatoes,
point.
absolutely.
A few months ago, they were selling for,
absolutely.
Farmers were throwing them off,
absolutely.
not being able to find
so if you had
buyers
storage
at the right
facilities
price.
and say
Now
IQF,
at 120 rupees a kilo.
Yes. So you have IQF and blast freezing facilities by which you can store such commodities also, which goes beyond cold stores for an extended shelf life up to 1 year, 2 years. So that when the off-season time comes or when peak demand happens, it can come into the market. For this also, the Essential Commodities Act basically is against hoarding of commodities. Now, storing commodity is not hoarding. It is ensuring supply of the commodity throughout the year so that it is viable. Not only the commodity prices will be stable, also the processor who's into tomato processing will find it viable to process. Otherwise, I've just come back from Dubai after interacting with all the global players, Lulu and that kind of thing. You know, the price of tomatoes changes from between 10 rupees to 120 rupees per kilo. 10 to 120, look at the difference, 1,000 times increase. So what people are doing is backward integration now. One is the cold store and IQF and blast freeze facility. The second one is with regarding to setting up polyhouses for tomato. So many large farmers, but to a limited extent, because people are not aware of these best practices, setting up 100 acres of polyhouse. 100 acres of polyhouse karne ke baad, when they cultivate off-season vegetables or off-season fruits. So off-season fruit vegetable cultivate karna through greenhouses is one of the solutions by which essential commodities can retain stable prices. The other means again is like in the case of onion. All the FPOs in Maharashtra, we've been working with 400 FPOs in Maharashtra under World Bank project. All these FPOs were interlinked with NAFED for the minimum support price program. So FPOs have their controlled atmosphere storage facility. They store 500 tons of onion each, 500 tons of onion each for 3 months. So that the 3 months when the price collapses, they don't sell the whole stock. They only sell part of it, their stock, half of it or that kind of thing. Half of 50% of their output is sold only after 3 months. So the price is maintained. And for that, again, we need a credit facility. We need storage infrastructure. Mm-hmm. So the FPO route can easily resolve all these issues with regard to essential commodities, with regarding to, and there is no ban on FPO storing commodities. You know, it's a farmer, it's not a trader. Right. So essential commodities is a solution. FPO is a solution for the essential commodity, which is repealed act. The FPO is the solution again for the contract farming, which is not imposed because throughout India, FPOs are working on the basis of MOUs. Working with a corporate does not guarantee you good prices. We are working with, say, big firms, not to mention names.
What is the difference? What is the difference, Padmanand, between MOU and a contract?
No price is fixed. Very simple.
What happens in a contract and what happens with an MOU?
So what happens in contract farming and MOU farming is ultimately what is common is that the large firm says what variety they want. What variety, what size, what color, what thing. And they provide the training also to the farmer. They also transfer good agricultural practices. In some cases, like we have done for maize with CP seeds and Cargill, is that transfer of technology is given in terms of seed also provided, you know, so that the variety happens. So because of good agricultural practice being transferred, seed variety being informed, and yield also increased by 10 to 20%. So cost reduction and yield increase and market correct. So what buyers want, wo variety ka commodity mil raha hai. Farmers go into it, they make money. So in a MOU-based farming, this and contract farming, both of this happens. The transfer, what the buyer wants, uske mutabik supplier makes. But the difference is in contract farming, the buyer is dependent or has to supply only to the person who's tied up with him, and he has no alternative. So prices are fixed. Both of them are reneging their contract if they don't supply to each other. In MOU, they are given the option to supply to anybody else. So assuming maize, when we did it CP seeds, 20,000 farmers supplying about 4,000 tons to CPCs, the biggest poultry manufacturer in the world, with a factory in Pune also. So when the price of 3 seasons, they supply to CP seeds. The 4th season, when the CP seeds rates were 100 rupees per quintal, lesser than the market rate, they supply to somebody else. You know, so this option, alternate market linkages for FPOs, is another option by which we can resolve. And this is through MOU-based farming. With gentleman's agreement, that's subject to your transferring information. We will also give first preference to you. But if your price is not matching the market, we may supply to anybody else. This is what happens. Right. Hundreds of MOUs you have entered and operating very well.
Right. Padmanand, tell us briefly about what are FPOs and why is collectivization the need of the hour for the Indian farmer? And how does this model work?
Yeah, I would have worked in, say, about 25 countries across the world, right from South Africa to Namibia to East Asia for the UN and various other organizations. You'd find that most of the other countries, it'd be 100 acres is a small holding. 1,000 acres is a typical okay holding. India mein average holding is 1 acre. Matlab 0.8 hectare, 1.5 acre or whatever. Some cases it is lesser. Meaning it is uneconomics, mainly because of land ceiling and land fragmentation. We have the tenancy laws, landlords, land taken and given to tenants everywhere, including in Kerala in a big way. Ultimately, what has happened is maybe 50 years ago or 70 years ago, landlord lost his land, it went to the tenant. Tenant had 10 acres each. Then tenant had 10 children. 10 children को एक acre बांटे. वो 10 children had 2 children each. फिर वो आधा acre हो गया. So ultimately what happens is the land has fragmented so much. And आजकल भाई का, how it works. So land has fragmented to such an extent that it is unviable to invest either in good inputs or go in for farm mechanization. So a large farmer with 100 acres or 20 acres in his control at least can invest in farm mechanization. Tractor को use कर सकता है. अच्छी सही जगह से he can source the inputs so that he does not go into spurious pesticides and depend on the local trader who's often, sometimes I'd say, sometimes very unscrupulous. 50% of pesticides in India, they say, is adulterated. Right? So kaise productivity hoga, increase hoga. But the farmer is dependent on the local trader because he is small. Local trader gives him credit also. So because of uneconomic size holdings, they are not able to upgrade productivity, technology, or input also. So aggregation of farmers into 300 farmers per FPO is what the government normally requires, minimum. Up to 500 to 1,000 also, meaning each farmer having 1 acre of land or even 1.5 acre. It is a question of about 1.5 to 2 acres, about 1,000 acres under the control of each FPO. 1,000 acres, if it is say cereals pulses, it means an output of maybe 2 harvests a year, about 2,000 tons a year, if it is cereals pulses. If it is horticulture, it may be 10,000 tons, 5 to 10 times, much more, depending on the commodity. So this is a volume by which you can do both. Forward maybe aap competitive ban sakte ho. Backward area also you can become competitive. Backward area means what? If you are doing about 1,000 acres under control, the input you require, seed, pesticide, fertilizer, we have estimated for 300 to 500 farmers, depending on 1,000 acres, is about 2.5 crore rupees. Meaning all the big input suppliers, be it UPL, Bayer, Syngenta, Yara, Seed, everyone would not mind making the FPO a dealer or a distributor. Once that is done, the cost of production falls by 25%.
How?
That is the margin a retailer makes. Imagine a 25% reduction cost of production.
So you are leveraging the economies of scale whereby you are cutting out the distribution margins for other people, and because of your size, because of you have about 1,000 acres in your FPO as holding, so you get access to inputs at a cheaper cost.
Yeah, with a substantially cheaper cost, 25% cost reduction, meaning a 30% increase in farm income, net farm incomes. In horticulture per acre, the cost of inputs is 30,000 rupees per acre. If you can reduce 8,000 rupees, 8,000 rupee farm income increases, almost 1,000 rupees a month, that kind of thing. In cereals, lesser, 10,000 only. But horticulture go to 40, 50,000. Chili and all that, 40,000 per acre is the cost of pesticide alone. And the margin there is 40%, not 25. So that is the difference they can make reduction. Second one is coming together for marketing also gives a volume to directly market. So what does the trader have? He aggregates commodities. Typical trader. He also has been doing a good job. Aggregation karte hain, फिर supply karte. But problem is most of the money also goes to him. But once the farmer does this, he can offer 500 tons to anybody. He can offer 1,000 tons to anybody, CPCs or anybody. He can deal directly with the buyer. What does the buyer want? Grade karo, sort karo. So uske liye facility chahiye. Either they do it manually or through a 20 lakh ka common facility center. If it is horticulture, cleaning, grading table, packaging plastic crates. 10 lakh, 15 lakh pe ye hota hai, including building. If it is maize pulses or food crops, you need a cleaning grading machine, which for 2 ton per hour, it costs about 8 lakh, 8.5, 9 lakhs. 9 lakh ka machine chahiye, building of 9 lakhs. Small, ek flat ka 1,500 square feet, building madri size. So with this itself, you can ensure direct market access. Direct market access, what is the benefit? The trader will be making at least a 10 to 20% margin, the market also. They are getting it directly. So in the input, they reduce their cost by 20 to 25%. Market, they increase their connect and increase their margins by 10 or 20% prices. Wahi kafi hai. And crop advisory is given by the input supplier because direct connect to the farmer. And nowadays, all the big players give crop advisory services. Globally, best practices advice services through apps to capture the farmers now, FPOs, as a free service. So that itself is increasing yield by product by another 20-30%. So doubling farmer income through these intervention, 3 or 4 intervention. Input shop, crop advisory services, direct market connect to alternate markets, and a common facility center for cleaning grading is assured. So what our Prime Minister says can be done by these 3-4 interventions. We are doing it throughout the country. And along with this, a credit connect. So we do a credit connect of, say, even a 5 lakh rupees to an FPO can ensure that they do 2 crore business only in input or market. I will tell you how. Say 5 lakh a farmer FPO gets for rotating money. He rotates it every 4 days. 5 lakhs he gets a month.
What is rotation money? How is
rotation
that money?
Meaning 5 lakh of pesticides. Say 30 types of pesticides and fertilizers are required. So he buys this. First it will be seeds, in the Kharif season. Seeds in the first 2 weeks. Then fertilizer, then pesticide. So iske mutabik karne waqt. So seeds kharidenge. He will buy, say, 5 lakh worth of seeds. He will give it to sell it to their members. Again, the FPO will buy. Again, sell. So 4 days, they will rotate this 5 lakhs. 4 to 5 days. So in a matter of 3 months season, harvest season, production to harvest season, meaning the full production full sowing it is about 2 to 3 months. 3 months, he will rotate that 5 lakhs at least about 10 times. So 12 times, meaning 5 into 12, about 70 lakh of business a farmer group can do with just 5 lakh of rupees. We prepare the plan and help them do it, So this ensures that they don't need to pay a big deposit. They don't need big money, 70 lakhs for making 25% cost reduction. 5 lakhs, they can do 70 lakh business. And the 70 lakh business, 25 lakhs is the cost reduction. Because that is the dealer rate. So 25 lakh meaning about 15 lakhs is the benefit to the FPO. Similarly for market also, a 5 lakh limit will facilitate them to give a credit sale to buyers. The big corporate direct want credit sale. They will not pay cash like a trader in advance, low and lesser amount. They may want 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So this working capital facilitates that also. Third one is avoiding distress sale. Part of the volume, meaning if the FPO can produce 2 tons, about 500 tons they store for 2 months. When the price is reasonable, they will download the market. It is good both for the consumer, good for the farmer also. So these 5 interventions are most critical and very, very simply to be done if the good professionals are working in the field. We can do it for all the farmers. Input, crop advisory, credit linkage, direct market connect, and common facility center where required. Many cases, you don't require the common facility also. Grading, sorting can be done in the open. And then
Padmanabh, how easy or difficult is it for farmers to collectivize themselves and to start something like an FPO? The government had, this big scheme of, 10,000, creating 10,000 FPOs. In fact, I did a show with Vilas Shinde of Sahyadri Farms. And a few farmers got in touch with me and said that, how do I go about it? It is difficult to get all members of my family to agree to something. How do I then go and get 300 other farmers like me? So how does this work, and what is...
we do mobilization in 2 months.
Okay.
2 months, whereas others may take 1 year or 2 years. How you speak business? A farmer is not a fool. He's a very intelligent man. And he knows everything about his business. You say you invest 1,000 rupees as share capital, 300 of you, you're getting 3 lakh. This 3 lakh can be made 6 lakhs within 1 month, only through an input shop, because you're getting a 25% reduction. Meaning, for example, like I told you, an FPO in one harvest alone is doing 70 lakh input business. 70 lakh input business, what is the margin? 25%. So 25% of 70 lakhs, it is about 25 lakhs. 7 3s are 21, 7 2s are 14, 14 about 18 to 19 lakhs. So 19 lakhs the FPO is making with a 3 lakh investment by member, meaning what is the return on investment for his 1,000 rupees? Each farmer is making 3,000 rupees return within a matter of 3 months. You speak business, you show it to them. You make speak to another farmer leader next door. who we have already done, or through video, or go and see it. Within a matter of weeks, the farmer leaders would evolve the network. So we speak business. So what we find is,
how do you go about mobilizing farmers to collectivize themselves?
Very simple. These 10 business models we evolve in that particular location. We present it to them. We make them interact with our hundreds of success stories across the country through webinar, and they understand, sahi baat hai, these people would not have food to eat. Now they're all roaming in their four-wheelers and speaking only in crores, that kind of thing. So why not us also? So now it's all a matter of days. If you do it professionally, mobilization is a matter of days, regardless of whether even in Jharkhand, we do it in 4 months. Aspirational district, which are the poorest districts in the country. In Jharkhand, many districts, including Hazaribagh.
Yeah. So why haven't FPOs been able to take off in the way that the government envisaged it to? Again, of the 10,000 FPOs plan, I think statistics say that hardly 30% are active, and even that would be on the higher side.
Yeah.
What prevents them scaling up and being active?
In fact, yesterday I was in Delhi on a fireside chat with Nilkamal Darbari ji, the Secretary Agriculture and MD of SFPs, the architect of the 10,000 FPO program. It is only 1 year old. We were also closely involved in them, preparing the whole thing. Our expertise, our inputs has all gone. It is only 8 to 9 months old. So the difference between what has happened the last 10 years and what is happening now, is only happening now, last few months, is this. Earlier, in fact, Madam had also declared it yesterday, there were no professionals working in the field. You would not find a KPMG, McKinsey or Pricewaterhouse or the big Reliance foundations working this in a big way. There you'll find only some small NGOs where the typical employee, if you speak to him, he may not even be an MBA, he may be an undergraduate. You ask him to prepare a business plan, the staff will not be able to prepare it. You ask him to speak to Pepsi's procurement manager, baat nahi kar sakte. You ask him to prepare an Excel sheet plan on the viability of input operation. Even after training for 1 week also, you will not be able to do it. So that has been the standard of professionals who have been working in the ecosystem. Not to criticize. It is mainly because the ecosystem was only focused on livelihood, meaning on public delivery of services, that kind of thing, not on entrepreneurship, not on business. It was an aggregation.
How do professional services firms like GT or
I told you, when we get in, within 1 week.
How do you make the money? At which stage do you get in? And does the government incentivize you to work with these FPOs?
Yeah. So how does it make it viable for the professionals to come in? In our team, say before me, I'm having 3 people from IIM Ahmedabad. You know the rate of an IIM in Ahmedabad. Okay, I am from Cambridge. I have, say, 3 other people from Asian Institute of Technology and that kind of thing. And IRMAs, all the IRMAs. So these are premium professionals, about 200 of them. And of course, junior field workers, hundreds of them, LRPs and different types. So we do the total package, right from mobilization to, and we don't involve anybody else. Because we have seen that once you involve, all kinds of quality will suffer and it's very risky. We cannot afford a brand equity being affected. That is one. So what we find is, you do it in a business-like fashion. You present in Hindi ho, ya Bengali ho, we present the business plan after a rapid diagnosis of about 1 month of each ecosystem. That particular block. A block is typically an FPO, involving about 12 villages, 13 villages. We do a rapid diagnosis, prepare the plans, PowerPoint in local language and all that, media and success videos and all that, then do a 1-day awareness program involving all the farmers. Throw in about 12 villages, 14 villages. We find that and motivate the leaders. There will be leaders behind these, at the village level. They will form the groups along with the other members and come to us. In a matter of 2 months, the group is evolved. 300 members willing to pay 1,000 rupees each. So I remember many MPs in other locations saying, will these farmers pay 1,000 rupees to you? I said, give us 2 weeks time, we'll make not 1,000, we'll collect even 5,000 from the poor farmer. Mm-hmm. So if he sees business, he does it. That's how we've been working. And question is, where does the money come from? Like earlier, till last year, when there were 7,000 FPO, this record you say 30% not working, 70% not working is with regard to what was earlier. This is 10,000 FPO is only coming now. It's only 8 months old. So we are waiting for the results and it's all deliverable based. Until the 3,000 people pay their money, a contribution, there is no money paid to the consultant. Input shop is not open, no money to the consultant. Credit, it's all there, each activity. So it's very result oriented. That's why many people are worried also. We cannot deliver. People are not, who are not experienced.
So you are paid by the government of India?
Yes. So under the present model, earlier model till last 10 years, about 7 to 8 lakhs used to be paid per FPO. It was not viable for anyone, even for us. We never used to do it. We used to do only World Bank and ADB project. For the last 6 years, we've been working only for the World Bank or the ADB with thousands of FPOs. Then the last few years, we started working with the government, state government. So now the rate has been increased from 8 lakhs or whatever to about 25 lakhs. Not even 8, it was 5 lakhs. 5 lakh pay, you think even one for 3 years. 5 lakh pay, a chai wala salaries will also not be covered. 5 years, you pay 20,000 rupees to a person. A year, it coming to 2.5 lakhs. 3 years, it coming to 7 lakhs. So 20,000 rupee person will work with the FPO. What do you expect? He can come and serve tea. What do you expect in terms of delivery? But now it is 25 lakhs and the government is trying to ensure there is scale economies. 20 FPOs in one location. So that is viable for the professional. There are fixed and variable costs. Viable for the professional to deploy 10 to 20 people. Marketing expert, financial expert, chartered accountants. We deploy about 15 people, experts for each thing, but they will not spend full time with one FPO. 1 year a month with one FPO. So if it's 10 to 15 FPO in one location, it is commercially viable for professionals to offer services. That all government has realized and doing it now. So now it has come to 25 lakhs per FPO. Even then, even if it's 25 lakh for 3 years, if it is one person working with one FPO in one distant region, Manipur, you imagine the viability. You pay 1 lakh per salary, even for a 4-year-old MBA from, say, a reasonably good institution, it will be 1 lakh, right? Is what the salary they expect. Who can prepare a business plan, can interact. We can train him through Zoom and Teams, but minimum go ahead. So, usi mein dekhenge 3 years pay, it is 36 lakhs. It is a loss of 9 lakhs for who's working in FPO. So, we require 10 FPOs there. And it will not be 1%, it will be 5% required there. Other supporting assignment required. So, all this model is now fit to the government program. 25 lakh per FPO is paid by the government of India for the period of 5 years, in fact, not 3. So that kind of thing. And 18 lakhs goes directly to the FPO. 18 lakhs is for their CEO, manager for a 2-year period. Right? So it is reasonably well. In World Bank and ADB and Foundation project, it is several times more. It is not just 25 lakhs, much more. But their expectations are also much higher. Okay. What they will say is, we don't want 500 farmers with 100 farmers being very active. We expect all 500 farmers' income to be doubled in 3 years. We give guarantees and work. We do those kind of things also. So there the fees are slightly high. So everyone is into this because otherwise it is a question of throwing thousands of crores down the drain, which has happened till now in many cases. Right. But now at least the thousands of crores which is going is productively spent and closely. That is the difference. And everyone is now into it.
Padmanabhan, there is always this fear of a lopsided balance of power, even when farmers are collectivized, when dealing with, say, a large corporate. There's always this boogie of Ambani, Adani type thing. Even after collectivization, do they have that power to negotiate price with a large global company like Cargill or CP Seeds?
Yeah. You're absolutely right. See, CP Seeds or Mother Dairy, NDDB is our own firm, our own Mother India's firm, Mother Dairy. But Mother Dairy, when we get to baby corn, say, not to mention names. Okay, baby corn, we got to some commodity with Mother Dairy. But finally at the market, when we tried to sell it, the rate they offered was, whichever firm, not to mention names again, was half the market rate. Because they are also doing business. They cannot go bankrupt just to feed a farmer. So they are based on sourcing also. Everybody has global sourcing. If the rate they get it cheaper from somewhere else, it may be from Argentina, it may be from Bihar. They get it at some rate for whatever reason at that time. They will buy it at a cheaper rate. They are not going to pay double the rate for a farmer group because they are nurturing that group. So it is a free market forces. That's how world works. That's how efficiency is brought in. So where we do is we don't tie them up with one corporate. Where we work and many professionals work is, we tie them up with 6 alternate markets. One is the ENAM, the internet marketing option, where anyone can sell from home, by photographs and across the country. Second one is NCDX, commodity futures prices. They can hedge. It's like a share market. They can sell their commodity today itself, after harvest 3 months later, and the price is fixed now, prefixed. It's like a contract. Third one is large corporates. It could be Mother Dairy, Jain Irrigation, blah blah blah, Pepsi, Coke, their vendors, hundreds of them. They're all directly. The fourth one is the small processor, smaller retailer within the district, who are also a big market. And the seventh one, which for horticulture, is direct marketing to household societies. All our horticulture FPOs in Pune, Bangalore, they have their own vehicle, pickup van for 8 lakhs, whatever, buggy, and they go to the societies and sell it directly. They make 40% higher margin. The seventh option is their own shops, like in West Bengal. The government of West Bengal has got a scheme. Government offers shops free of cost to FPOs. They have their own retail, Sufal Bangla outlets, retail outlets. So there are 7 marketing channels. All these channels are given to them and they decide. So there's not a question of depending on anybody's, charity. This is business. There's no charity. So we make them business. And we have an MBA program of 5 days. We have 4 books. You must have had a look at some of them.
Yeah.
We are writing 2 more books, hopefully one with MDSFAC also now. Another book, which will be a really understanding of what agri-value chains operate in India and how to penetrate the global market and FPOs also, the tools and techniques. Now, what we find is that the management training is very critical. A banker, for example, people criticize. Banks don't give loans. There is credit guarantee of 2 crore. In fact, Madam Neel Kamalji was also mentioning yesterday the national podcast, it was a nationally beamed fireside chat. So Madam had mentioned that only 200 loan firms, loans have been given, sanctioned, though we have a 1,000 crore provision now. So only 200. Why? I will not blame the bankers alone. I will blame the professionals who are working in the field. I will blame the FPOs. Because if you have a good business plan, you are able to present the business plan to the banker. There is no reason why no banker will step in. We work with NBFCs extensively, 4 or 5 of them, and they may rate be at 14%. But even if at 14% rate of interest, the farmer is able to get 50% higher prices by storing commodity for 3 months. It says business sense. Do it. We do that every time. Within 1 month of registering FPOs, we give them credit linkage. We find it so easy. Why is it anybody else finding it difficult? There is some mistake somewhere now. So the ecosystem, you train the business, the board of directors on FPO. What is break-even point? What is return on investment? If I store onion, which is 10 rupees a kg for 3 months, and it becomes 16 rupees a kg in 3 months, I'm making 6 rupees a kg. If I pay interest of 14% also, it works out about 1.3% a month. So in 3 months of holding, I'm paying 4.6%. By paying 4.6% for say X amount, say 10 lakhs, I'm paying about how much? 46,000 rupees. But the benefit I'm getting is the storage of 10 lakh produce, meaning it may be that I'm making something like 30 lakhs or 25 lakhs, depending on how much I've stored with that money. So meaning once they see this benefit, cost benefit, they find that absolutely right. So these are simple things which somehow nobody is teaching the board of director. So when the banker interviews them, banker will have 1 hour interview, be it NBFC or thing, not with us, not with NBFC, it's with the board of director. Board of director explains all this with an Excel sheet. We prepare the Excel sheet. He will show it to them and also show the figures. These people know what they are doing. Let us give the loan. They may not give 20 lakhs. 10 lakhs, they will see how they are doing the first 3 months. Then they will enhance it. So making the farmers entrepreneur is key. Through short duration MBA, our manuals are that. We teach them for morning 9 o'clock onwards to night 12 in 5 days. We do that every 3 months. So it's a practical MBA and practical business planning and management. Then the ecosystem will support them.
Does the FPO model work better with certain kinds of produce? Say to take again the example of Sahyadri, they've taken up grapes or pomegranate with an year-round output and with an export orientation. Would it work with something like staples, rice or cereals and oilseeds?
Now, what we have found is, on a broad average, a farmer who's into cereals, food crops, makes say about only 1/5 of those who are into horticulture. I'm right now in Himachal, it is for this only, converting them from wheat, funded by the ADB, 1,000 crore project, whatever, funded by the ADB. We are evolving the inception plan. So they are into wheat and maize here. They make maximum 50,000 rupees as net income every year per acre in Himachal. Now we are planning to convert them to pomegranate, convert them into citrus fruits, because there is heavy demand for that. And based on the tonnage and market prices, they could earn even 6 to 10 lakhs per acre. Meaning income increase 5 times more by going towards horticulture produce. This is well known because presently there is a demand supply gap in horticulture. So going into commodities like horticulture is a means by which farmers can make higher incomes. But we cannot expect all the farmers in India go into this. Then horticulture girega. That's a next thing. In fact, the solution to all this is, one of the solutions is how do we evacuate the marketable surplus? Within 4 or 5 years, all the crores of farmers, we will double their income, whatever. We'll assume we can do it through professional method. But ultimately, where will the commodity go? Because the Indian market is saturated. Because consumer willing, it's a question of money with the consumer also. Saturated. Until we penetrate the global market, which we are only 2% in most commodities. Like I told you, we have just been to the Middle East to a global value chain study. $30 or $40 billion the demand of horticulture in the Gulf region alone. And more than 80% of the business controlled by Malayalis, Sindhis or Marwaris. Malayalis, most of them. All our own NRIs. But only 10% of the things which they import to GCC and UAE is from India. They say variety is not good. Nobody has discussed with them what variety. Size is not appropriate. Color is not appropriate. Then the grading sorting is not appropriate. No one else has bothered to interact even. So, we can double our horticulture export in 1 year if we just interact with our NRI brethren in each region. In the Asian region, in Canada, in Malaysia, Singapore, because they are controlling the economies and trade in many cases. But we are not bothered to do it. So getting the right varieties and doing it is very important. We can easily expand the market also, which should be something we start working on right now.
Padman, and finally, give us one interesting success story in your experience.
Yeah. I would say a success story would be not something like, say, Sahyadri, which has taken several decades,
right,
or say the Anand model. A success story is someone who in 3 or 4 years is doing 5 crore business. We expect all our FPOs to do it. So 5 crore business meaning, if there are 500 farmers.
Could you give an example of
I'll give you.
some FPO?
So I'll tell you the logic also. If it is 5 crores business, 2.5 crore from input purchase, 2.5 crore from direct common marketing. Though they can do 10 crore of common marketing with 2,000 tons, at least 25% they do joint marketing, others through their individual. So 5 crores of business means 1 lakh of transaction per farmer, assuming 500 farmers per FPO. 1 lakh of transaction, they are making 20 to 25% of benefit for each farm because it's either cost reduction or higher price increase. So meaning the farmer will be increasing his income by about 40 to 50% directly through this without crop advisory and various distress sale and other things. This itself will increase income by 50%. This can be done in a matter of 3 months. We don't need 2 years. 1 harvest, if the good professionals are working. So this should be the objective, that every FPO does 5 crores of business. And could you repeat the question again?
No, I said, can you give us an illustration of a
So who are the FPOs doing this 5 crore business? I would say in each state, we are working in 11 states now, 300 members in the FPO team alone. The MSME sector also, we are market leaders. We have a big team there. We are facilitating that also with SIDBI and various other organizations. Now, FPO alone, you would find that at least in every state, there are people we are working with. There will be 30, 40 FPOs who are doing 5 crore turnover in a matter of 3 years. How is this? Who are these? For example, one is, say, Sai Pravara. It's in Aurangabad. Earlier, Ashok Chavanji is the leader. Earlier, it was under the World Bank sponsored state government. This World Bank ADB is through the state government. They give soft loan state government. They only provide technical monitoring and we implement. Yeah. So what you'll find is Sahyadri, this Ashok Chavanji, Sai Pravara, had started off with basically an input shop. Now they are doing 2 crores of input shop operations. They are largely into maize thing. And what we did was we tied them up with CP seeds. So CP seeds, after the input shop operation, CP seeds transferred their seeds, good agricultural practices, which increased a 20% increase in yield and 10% reduction in cost. This was also facilitated. Then we helped them set up a common facility center of 20 lakhs for grading, sorting of maize before supply to CP seeds or to anybody else. This was third intervention. Fourth intervention was now they are setting up a cattle feeding plant. Fifth intervention was federating them in with 20 other FPOs. So totally 20 FPOs were federated together, jointly supplied to CP seeds under Ashok Chavan's leadership, 20,000 farmers. So this was a good model which you could do in 1 year. And similar models all over we have. Say in Andhra, I can give you one example. Within 1 year, a chili FPO They have just been formed, registered and all that. Within 6 months itself doing 1.5 crore of input purchase. Because in Chile, tying up with Syngenta and with Bayer, etc., big input suppliers, 25% reduction in cost, they got their inputs. Because in Chile is 35,000 rupees per acre is the cost of pesticides alone. So many cases where this 5 crore, 4 crore is all realized within a period of 3 years, I'll say is a benchmark. Involving most active members, not a dummy FPO, most members being involved, is a benchmark. We have hundreds of such cases amongst our 1,000 FPOs. And I'm sure there are hundreds of other cases in the ecosystem, because we also give these national awards, with Economic Times, Samunati, that kind of thing. So we also assess the FPOs across the country regularly.
Right. So all in all, there is we should lose heart, with
no, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. There are good professionals working. There are large number of professionals working. Earlier, professionals were not into this ecosystem. We got in here 6 years ago, but we were also learning, trying. Now there are sufficient number of experts. It's only a question of disseminating the expertise. And the ecosystem will change because the levers, the successful farmers, successful FPOs, successful state government IAS officers, successful and knowledgeable IAS officers in Delhi, and knowledgeable ministers and members of parliament, all of them will advocate for this.
Right.
So I don't want to mention names, it's not right. But many of them are now advocating after seeing it. Seeing is believing.
Right, Padmanabhan, thank you very much for joining us today on Field Notes. And until we meet next week, goodbye and God bless.